Is anything happening?
For me, it's still saying waiting. Oh, now it's, yeah, now it's working.
Okay. Ah, okay, yes. And for me too. Oh, right. I believe that we are live.
For me, it's still saying, looks like waiting. Oh, now it's, hello everyone. Now it's working. I
Okay.
think maybe we should wait a little bit for people to join.
Yeah, totally agree.
Hmm.
Ah, okay, yes. And for me too. Oh, right. I believe that we are live. Hang on, I'm getting a little loop here. Okay. Live viewers, it says we have none. Whereas I know we have at least one. 7. Hello, 7 people.
Hmm.
Okay, this seems to be working. So yeah, let's see if we just wait a couple of minutes just for a few more people maybe to log on.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean to get rid of that. Okay. Okay, I think particularly for the benefit of the recording, we should probably kick off. I will say hi, I'm Chris Simmonds, and my colleague,
I'm Sergio Prado, yeah.
and we're here to talk about what's new in Android 14 from the platform developer's point of view.
Nice, yeah. Maybe we could start with some introduction, Chris.
Absolutely. So, sure, I'm sure everybody knows who I am, but just in case. So, I'm Chris Simmonds. I'm a consultant. I do training classes, although not so much anymore. And I specialize in open source embedded software, especially embedded Linux and Yocto and Android, which is why we're here. So I've been using Android as an embedded operating system for many years. I've worked on many different products. And of late, I've been doing a lot of work with the automotive industry, working with Android Automotive. So that's kind of why what I'm doing here. Sergio, yeah.
Nice, yeah. And you are also the writer of the best embedded Linux book out there. So I usually
I forgot that
recommend
bit.
all of my students, if they want the best embedded Linux book, it's yours. Um,
I do have the book.
yeah, so my name is Sergio Prado. So yeah, I've been working in this embedded space for 25 plus years. For the last almost 15 years, I work with my company, Embedded Labworks, and I do consulting and training on several different embedded Linux topics. And yeah, I've been working with embedded Android for more than 10 years since Android 2.1. And I do all training as well. And here in Brazil, I usually provide training to the big tech companies that develop Android, like Samsung, LG, Motorola, and so on.
Absolutely. Okay. As we all know, Android 14 Upside Down Cake was released 2 months ago, early no, early October, a little bit more than 2 months ago. So we've had a chance to play with it and kick it around a little bit, and we're going to give you our first opinions really as to how it works, how the platform building works, and use cases and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I created a small document. Maybe I could share, Chris,
Yeah,
so we
sure,
can
that'd be great.
start this conversation. Yeah. Let me try to share here. Um, I think, let me find the correct window here. Close this one here, window. This one.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, nice. So I mean, I think it's a little bit early to have a good idea of what AOSP 14 is because I mean, didn't have time to work on any project, at least myself on any project. But I play with it for a few days, and one thing that I decided to do was to compare a few Android versions. Um, I like statistics because usually statistics says like where we are going. Um, and so I decided to compare three versions of Android. Of course, that took me a little bit of time because I wanted to build everything and run the emulator and do some tests on it. And it was especially hard to do it with Android 8. Um, I could not easily spin up a virtual machine, and I tried, and in the end, I could do it inside a Docker container. But yeah, it was, I mean, hard to build old software nowadays. Um, so those are like why first why I decided to work with Android 8 because it was the first version after Treble. So I want to compare like from Treble to like the latest, and yeah, 13 was the latest before 14, of course. Um, and then I created some statistics so we know like what's happening. One
And
one
this is for,
takeaway of this
sorry, this is for an emulator build?
exactly. So for AOSP 8, we didn't have the cuttlefish yet,
Yeah.
so I built the default goldfish emulator. And but for 13 or 14, I built the cuttlefish, the phone build, and for 64 bits, x86 64 bits. Um, and those are the statistics, so we can have an idea. One takeaway is and for those that work with the AOSP knows like the project doesn't stop increasing in size and complexity. Um, so we can see here like from AOSP 8 we had 500, almost 600 projects in the manifest file. Now just doubled the number of projects. And I can see like every version we have almost 100 new projects. And that's really kind of impressive to me. Um, and that's the same thing for the source, the size of the source code. It just doubled from Android 18, from Android 13 to 14. We we get there more 10 gigs of source code. That's also impressive. 10 gigs of source code, a lot of source code.
It's
Um,
basically exponential the way it grows.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, it seems that they don't drop code; they just add code. Because if you look at I also follow the Linux kernel development, and it is also increasing, but we drop a lot of code in the Linux kernel. We add lots of code, but we also drop lots of code. But it seems we don't drop much code at the AOSP level. Also, the launch targets increased a lot, and I'm also following the number of Rust source code there, and it is yeah increasing a lot in the latest like releases. They are doing lots of things. That's one of the things that they are doing. Like all of new native applications, they are writing Rust now. Um,
Yeah, I think from Android 13 onwards, Rust was a kind of first tier language. Previous to that, it was experimental, so you could build Rust things, but there was nothing actually in a running product. But now it is it's mainstream.
yeah, exactly. they don't write new code in C++ anymore. At least I'm not aware of this. Yeah. About the build statistics, so those are. I mean, I use it. I didn't build on my main machine because I wanted to work. I I could not like just leave it building and yeah go away. So I used a machine with eight CPUs and I think 32 gigs of RAM and a disk, not an SSD. And that was the result. So 2 hours and a half for AOSP 8, good times, and then 7 hours for 13, almost 9 hours for 14. I really felt that AOSP 14 is slower in terms of building times. I don't know, like the launch is slower. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I mean, it was just a couple of days, so yeah, I will need to play more with this to see if it's really slower or not.
I believe it
and
is.
of course,
I back that up.
yeah, yeah. And I also need to test on my real machine. I have a really nice machine here. It will be faster, but I'm really concerned about my training because that's a problem. Like people doesn't have that good machine for doing the exercise in the training. Maybe I should move to cloud for the exercise.
I've been using cloud, and that works. That's more reliable because I can give students a cloud instance which has a known setup. It's easy for them. It's easy for me. So
yeah, that's nice, and you can get a nice price for the cloud, like the user. Maybe we can sync that, yeah, offline. And yeah, another like the build output is also increasing. I mean, almost more than 20 gigs increased from 13 to 14 for the same product that I'm building. And this was surprising for me, but I think I know what is the reason. Like on ASP 18, we didn't have all of those partitions.
Exactly, yeah.
For so only the system and vendor, and now we have all of those system vendor ODM products. So they are separated, and that's why the system is smaller.
I'm surprised that it's gone down so much between Android 13 and 14. I haven't actually done that check.
Exactly, but I mean, I didn't. Those statistics I collected today, so I didn't have time to investigate.
Actually,
I think
there is one thing that I just spotted as I was doing a build. They're now using a compressed file system for the system image.
Exactly.
They're using EOFS. So that would be part of it.
Yeah. So that was, yeah.
Ah, yeah, okay, you got that.
What I thought about, yeah. So they moved it, yeah, the root, the read-on partitions to EOFS, and they also moved the read-write partitions to F2FS.
Yeah, yeah.
In 13, everything was ext4. That I'm not sure if they have done that as well for Pixel devices, or just.
They have, yes. When I do a cuttlefish build on AOSP 13, I was getting F2FS for the user data partition as well. Just saying. But okay. I don't know
why. Yeah, that was my default build for 13.
Yeah.
And I got ext4 partitions.
Yeah,
probably the reason here is the compressed image. I'm also following the migration from like make to Sung and Sung to Bazel and Bazel to something that we don't know what's going to happen, but so we can see like the make files are decreasing, maybe not at that speed but they are decreasing, and the blueprint files are increasing as the build files for Bazel. I'm just not sure the difference between all those Bazel files. I know that there are different Bazel files there. Do you know, Chris, the difference between those Bazel files?
Not in detail. I've not it's on my list of things to do, is to do a deep dive into Bazel and find out how it all works. Currently, I know that when you run a build, it generates, there's a tool called BP to Bazel, which will generate a build file for every one of the Android BP files that you're building. But they're hidden down in the out directory.
Exactly.
But I'm not convinced that any of those build files are currently used in production builds yet. Well, I could be wrong.
Maybe I found out that there are lots of build files for host tools, but not for the device. Yeah. So probably most of those are for host builds. Yeah. And those are runtime statistics. So they moved the kernel to 6.1. That's the full kernel for Android 14.
Which is good.
The number of processes decreased, at least for my build. That's of course depends on the build, the device that you are working on. But for cuttlefish, the number of processes decreased, and also the number of threads, but pretty much similar, right? Just decreased a little bit. The number of system services increased as always. There are always more system services, but one thing I realized is that, like, when you run service list to collect all of the system services, you don't have just system services there. You have also halls that move it to.
And that I suspect a lot of that is because more and more of the HALs are moving from HIDL to AIDL. And the AIDL HALs appear as system services, even though they're really not system services.
Yeah. So for me, it's a little bit confusing because, like in Binder, you have 3 Binder channels, right? The vendor channel, the hardware channel, HW Binder, and the Binder channel. And in theory, the Binder would be for the framework, and the HW Binder for the halls. In theory, that was like in Android 8, and they started this binderized hall thing. But then now it's kind of mixed, you never know like which kind of.
Well, the HW binder channel is only for HALs using HIDL, HIDL.
Exactly.
As they migrate from HIDL to AIDL, or IDLE, as some pronounce it, then they instead use just the regular binder channel /dev/binder, and they then appear as system services. Which is kind of confusing because most of the times you can't treat them as system services. But it's just part of the way of migration.
Yeah, and as far as I remember, the reason they split it in 3 different channels was to not have like too much communication in one of the channels, right? And now they are taking the decision to do everything in one channel again. I mean, as soon as they move everything to move away from HIDL.
It does seem all the arguments they used for using HIDL instead of AIDL in Android 8, they seem to be rowing back on those and saying, well, actually, it wasn't so important after all.
Exactly.
We should have gone with AIDL and skipped HIDL altogether.
Exactly. Yeah, looks like. Another thing I realized, and I mean, this is just for the cuttlefish, because the default configuration for memory in cuttlefish 13 was 2 gigs, and now they moved it to 4 gigs. There might be a reason there. Maybe we need more memory.
I think that's always true. I mean, you can set the LowM True system property, and that should shrink it down to 2 gigs or something. But I think that's mostly for things like smartwatches and other devices. Obviously, phones and automotive and whatever, they're going to need masses of memory.
Yeah. I mean, there might be any reason for them to just change the default to double the default memory. Boot time, that was a little like around 15 seconds. I mean, I was just like, I didn't use any kind of tooling, tracing stuff to really measure boot time. because I didn't have time to do this. So I just used my smartphone and just and used a timer to measure. And so just to have an idea, I mean, just a few seconds difference between the two releases.
So that was on your phone rather than in the emulator.
No, I was running the emulator, but I just started the emulator and measured with my my timer in my phone until I see the launcher.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So as soon as I see the launcher, I stopped the counter, and I was not really measuring the device using any kind of tool. I should do that, of course, but I didn't have time to set up the infrastructure to do that.
Well, it's still a valid test.
Yeah. I mean, so from the user perspective, right? How long it takes to see the launcher. So that was the test. Apex, I'm following the Apex files. For those that don't know Apex, this is a kind of a way to package an application and its dependencies, pretty much like a container, but in a custom format that the Google team created. So you can basically update them isolated from the rest of the system. Like, for example, if you want to update the ADB daemon today, you don't need to update the system partition. You can just update the ADB Apex file. And Google, they implemented this in this mainline project a few years ago, and they can push those updates over Google Play nowadays. So I'm following the number of Apexes mounted there, and just increased it a little bit, 5 new Apexes. Number of properties, that's something that in Android I have mixed feelings about it. From one side, I like it because it's a very flexible way to configure and create events in the system. But there is no documentation about any of the properties. You have to look at the source code. Anyway, it's always increasing. We are almost reaching 1,000 properties there. BPF programs, just one new BPF program as far as I could tell in System etc BPF. And those changes in the file system that I mentioned. So now by default in Cuttlefish, AOSP is using EOFS. That is nice for read-only file systems, and F2FS for read-write file systems like the data partition. Yeah, those are the tests that I have done in the last couple of days. I want to have an idea of Android and how it is today. And I mean, I have a few more. I'm not sure if you want to comment on this, please, or if you had the chance to play with AOSP 14.
Yeah, so I've been doing a number of builds, mostly for cuttlefish and goldfish, and just trying various things out. So what to say? So first of all, I noticed, as we kind of hinted on, that more and more of the HALs are moving to AIDL. So HIDL, HIDL will disappear hopefully quite soon, which will be good because I can't focus on two different things at once. So from the release notes, the audio HAL, the Wi-Fi vendor HAL, the thermal HAL, the TV input HAL, amongst others, have now been migrated to AIDL. Which is a good thing. I noticed that the tool chains have been updated, and in particular the Java JDK has made a big jump to 17, so it's now JDK 17. So yeah, it's progress in all areas. I think that the main impression I get, however, is that there's nothing really huge going on here. It's all incremental changes. The biggest change probably is with the integration of Bazel into the build system. But currently it's pretty much invisible unless you go looking for it. So as a platform developer, you still write Android BP files, and then there are tools that will generate build files from them, Bazel build files from them. So as platform developers, we just carry on doing the same old thing as we always have done. It should just work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we might talk a little bit about this build system stuff. I mean, we both like work with Yocto and build root and other build systems. And
Now, wouldn't it
when
be
I have
great
to,
if Google would switch to using Bitbake for the build system? That would solve all their problems.
all of them.
Well,
I mean,
most of them.
I mean, I really feel AOSP is growing in a way that we, the developers, don't have much control. I mean, I really feel like they need to have a tool to really define what I want to use in AOSP. I don't want the whole thing. And usually, we might have some knobs here and there, but it's not documented. It's not easy. Like you have to find out what kind of make variables you have to use in a product file. It's all mess, you know, and every release there are new variables. We are always copying and paste from one product to another to do new stuff.
Yeah,
This is
you
for
can
me,
see that.
yeah, it's a real problem. It's nice that the project is growing and lots of features are added every release, but like something like if you look at the Linux kernel, it's always growing, but you can really build a kernel um, that fits, you know, in 4 mega flash device because it's really modular. You can really enable almost or disable almost everything, you know. It's really modular, and I really feel like this is lacking in Android. It started small, but now it's growing a lot, and it already grew a lot, and now, I mean, there is no turning back. It's hard to like let's now build with Yocto. Not sure if that would be feasible now. Um, it's always feasible, but it will be a lot of work.
It could be done. I guess, I mean, the build system has been a mess for a long time. And I guess we're all hoping that when the migration to Bazel is complete, we will finally have a nice clean build system. And hopefully it'll be much faster because, I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but one of the things that happens when you type M to do a build, it says something like analyzing BP files, generating build.ninja. And this build.ninja file is 2.5 gigabytes of text.
Yeah.
So that's why it takes quite a long time to do the initial.
If you change one line in a blueprint
change one
file,
line, it does the whole thing again, and that's like 5 minutes on a. Well, it depends on your hard drive, but for me, it's about 5 minutes for it to reparse everything and regenerate that huge file. When Bazel is complete, it shouldn't need to do that anymore. So that should be a whole 5 minutes saved out of our lives. The other thing I've noticed is that, at least for me, I find the build is less reliable, and I discussed this a little bit in the AOSP meetup, which I'll mention later on, a month ago. And for me, at least, doing pretty much the same thing, admittedly on my fairly old server, I'm getting a lot more random errors, and often errors without error messages, if you see what I mean. It just says build failed, or Ninja failed, something. And it doesn't really give you any clue what the error is. So I was trying to create a new device configuration, just a very simple, minimal device configuration, which I call Marvin. And somewhere along the line, I messed something up, and it was unable to parse it. But it didn't tell me which bit was wrong, it just kept on failing. So I had to go through bit by bit, reverting the changes until I got to the change which made it work again, and then starting again. And the build system just seems to be a bit less reliable for that, and it's slower, and it takes more threads, it takes more memory. I don't think it's possible to build AOSP on anything less than 32 gigabytes. And really 64 gigabytes is where it should be if you're serious about this.
And an SSD for sure. To do real work for me, SSD is a must because a hard disk, it's really slow. The access to the disk, it's insane. I mean, just generating that Ninja file takes a lot of time in a hard disk.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. I notice in the chat there is a question. I don't know if you can read the chat, but I'll read it out anyhow. So Nuba Soza says, how to run RP message and or Remoteproc / OpenAMP in AOSP 14. I am not familiar with RP message or Remoteproc, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I am familiar, but I'm afraid Android doesn't support this. I mean, at the user space level, so there are no halls for these or system services. I mean, if you have a kernel that provides all of the drivers for you to communicate with your processor, I mean, I might provide some background for those that are like
me
participate. So RP, MSG, and Remoteproc, they are like standards from OpenAMP that's to provide an infrastructure for asymmetric multiprocessing communication. So you have like nowadays those SoCs with different CPU cores, right? You have a microcontroller, Cortex, together with those microprocessors, and OpenAMP is a standard that provides these specifications like Remoteproc and RPMSG to communicate between those cores. Remoteproc is to manage the life cycle, like start and stop the other core, and RPMSG is to extend messages. It's a way for you like to create a shared memory region where both can communicate and synchronize using this shared memory region. So in Linux, you need a driver that will use some kind of hardware support. You need hardware support for this, right? To create this shared memory region, and then you go to the device tree and then enable that. And then you're going to have an interface in the /dev that you're going to use to send messages to the other core. I mean, this is well supported on Linux, but I have never seen an Android device with this. And for sure, since this is not common on mobile, there is no real support in AOSP for this, as far as I know.
So, I've certainly never heard of any. But I guess if you really wanted to, you could write a little how to do that, and you could. I mean, if it works in the kernel, it could work in your application. But I guess the real point is it's not supported natively. If you want this to work, you're gonna have to do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have a few extra notes here. So I was just poking with the build system again, and there are a few extra comments there I might want to mention. Like when you search the M setup script, you have those kind of comments like jgrep, cgrep, and there are new grep comments. So you have JSON grep, thermogrep, pygrep. You can play with it. I mean,
that's neat.
Yeah, there is a new M target. So the M command to build Android. There is a new target called sync that I found it might be useful. M sync. Do you know, Chris, that ADB sync command to sync the build with the device?
Yes,
so they created this M. Yeah, they create now this M sync command. So you can build everything but the images. So the M sync will not build the images, but it will build everything that you changed. and then you can, like, you change a few places, then you run msync, and then ADB sync, and then it will sync the changes without rebuilding the image.
Oh, that's cool. So it saves you having to because normally what I would do is just type M, and then it builds everything, and then I do ADB sync. But in that case, you don't need the images.
So, yeah, if you change a few places, like you don't have to run M a few times, right? You just run M sync and then ADB sync.
Oh, that's neat. I'll try that out.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, what else? I was talking about the kernel, right? I didn't really play with it. Like I tried, like I built a few times the latest kernels with the AOSP build system, that build.sh script, and now they are moving to a new framework called Kleaf. Not sure if you tried already, Chris. And
no.
Do you have it?
So I have built kernels using Kleaf and Bazel, but I've just done the kind of simplest thing, and I haven't really delved into it.
Yeah, me too. I still have to learn and study better to see how it works there. But I just wanted to mention that there is a nice talk at the Linux Plumbers conference about this. I'll try to find a link here and leave in the chat so people can watch it. Yeah,
we should probably mention Linux Plumbers. So if people are not familiar with that, Linux Plumbers is a conference that happens once a year, usually in October, November sort of time. And this year it was in Richmond, Virginia. And but it's all recorded, it's all live. It's mostly, of course, about the interface with Linux. So anything that talks to Linux is kind of up for a slot at Linux Plumbers. And there is always an Android micro conference chaired by Karim Yagmour, and there is always a lot of good talk there. A lot of the people presenting there are actually Google developers, Google Android kernel developers, and they always cover a lot of interesting topics. Usually they are looking a year ahead, so they will be looking at what's going to be in Android 15. So do you have the link there by any chance, Sergio?
I shared the link in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I think now they usually split like in separated links for each of the talks, but this link that I shared, it's for the complete.
Right, that's the complete recording. Yeah,
exactly. And then you can look. Yeah, I would recommend to watch because very nice talks there. And what I like about Plumbers is that the talks are smaller, so they usually talk for 10-20 minutes and then go to QA, so they usually go to the point, and that's very nice.
Okay. Did you share that link in the chat? I don't see it.
I try it. I can see there are messages from Newberg Park, Enio, and then that is my maybe I can share with you here in the Google Meet chat, and then you can share as well.
Okay, actually I think my chat window has died.
Okay.
No worries. Just me being kind of useless. Okay, I guess we're kind of coming to the end of this live stream. Is there anything else that you feel that we should discuss, Sergio?
I think not. I mean, I think I mentioned everything that I wanted to mention. There are, as I mentioned, like changes spread all over the place in Android, right?
There always is.
That is, there always is. And I usually more interested in the lower layers, and yeah, but I guess I mentioned everything that I wanted to mention. You mentioned about the halls, right? They are moving almost everything to ADO.
Hmm.
Uh, I can see Rust code everywhere now. So, and there is one nice thing to mention, maybe that they just submitted the binder driver in Rust to the. It was not integrated yet, as far as I know,
Hmm.
but that's another interesting, yeah. Um, Probably in the future, the binder driver in the Linux kernel will be, yeah, written in Rust. That's also nice.
I think we can expect a lot of Rust code to be in the HAL and also in the kernel drivers, going forwards. It's the way to
Yeah,
go. So that's good.
yeah, that's good.
So Anil Sezgin says, any leads research on possible precautions when updating from Android 12 with flattened apexes? Not sure what a flattened apex is, to Android 14 with apexes enabled. I'm not sure what flattened apex refers to. Do you?
No, never heard of Flatten Apex.
Oscar Demenzes Neto says, how about the resource consumption and Android 14? Any perceptions about impacts or upgrades? I think we kind of said that already. I mean, it consumes more resources, end of, as every Android release always does.
Yeah,
So more memory, for sure. I think you observed that there were fewer processes, but roughly the same number of
there were.
threads.
Yeah, I mean, it was very, very similar, but yeah, I think 10, 15 less process on AOSP 14, but more memory, so they increased the minimum amount of memory for cuttlefish. There might be a reason for that, and when you run free, everything was being used, so it seems it requires a little bit more memory. The boot time was bigger as well on AOSP 14. So as always, um, I mean, we are talking here about cuttlefish build, right? When you go
Yeah,
to a real
yeah.
device, and there you're gonna have more stuff there with yeah. So you're gonna probably need much, yeah, many more resources. Um, One thing that I was thinking about, Chris, I'm not sure if you already dig deeper into it, is the that Android virtualization framework, where
Mm-hmm.
they are designing like a framework for you to run isolated applications on a virtual machine. I'm not sure if they are already using this in real devices. I think they are released this in Android 13.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's the kind of mini
I
droid thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think they're using that on Pixel phones, really as a secure environment rather than
Mhm.
for the more normal reasons to want to use virtualization.
Yeah,
But as I understand it, and again, I've not had a chance to delve into this in any great depth yet, um, the idea is to open this out to other hypervisors as well as the basically cross VM hypervisor, which is bundled with AOSP. I don't really have any use cases right now as to why or how you would exploit that, but yeah, I think it will be
yeah,
possible.
yeah. I mean,
So
might be
again,
nice.
that's something that's going to be a big thing as we go forwards into Android 15 and
I think.
beyond.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, and that for sure would mean more resources, right? Because now you just don't have just sandboxes. You have like complete virtual machines there, and that means, yeah, more storage, more memory,
Exactly.
keep
I mean,
updating your hardware.
keeping up with Android is quite a task, as we all know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we just got to get to it, used to it, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's kind of. I'm just trying to think. I'm looking at we're kind of we'd scheduled 30 minutes and we're up to 45 minutes now. So I'm thinking maybe we should bring this to a close.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, nice.
So I hope this has been useful to people. The recording will be available. I'll post it. Well, you have the link already, otherwise you wouldn't be watching the live stream, I guess. But I'll post the link to people who didn't make it to the live stream in the usual places. And just a quick plug for the AOSP and AAOS meetup. The January meetup is scheduled. If you go to meetup.com and you'll see the, oh, I should post the link. I'll post the link in a moment. But I'm currently looking for people who want to do presentations at the meetup. Normally we have 2 presentations plus general chat. The last one, by the way, was really worthwhile looking at. We had a couple of talks on AOSP build systems and a talk on well, a number of things, including debugging using Perfetto and such like. So, yeah. If you're interested
talk about systrace was very nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, the next one will be 24th of January. So, hope to see some of you there as well. But
very nice, yeah. And yeah, I also would like to thank you for joining this, and I hope you enjoy it. It's very easy to reach me or Chris, so you can just go to LinkedIn and search for us. You, of course, might already know us from there. If you want to reach me, yeah, go to LinkedIn and then just drop me a DM there, yeah, and we can chat.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so I think we're going to close the stream down now. Thank you all very much for those who are watching and yeah, give Sergio or me a call if you want to share anything.
Bye bye.
Okay,